There we go. Make sure you unmute your mic. Dr. Thompson here with Exemplify Health Center, an affiliate of the Wellness Way right here in Yorkville, Illinois. Happy Monday evening, guys. Hope you guys are enjoying your fall. Hope you guys are enjoying the next couple of weeks leading up into the quote-unquote holiday season, and hope you guys aren't enjoying too much sugar. Right now, we're having a blast in our No Sugar Challenge group that we were doing right after Halloween, leading up to the day before Thanksgiving. We have over 200 people that are in the group enjoying severely limiting our sugars. Not no sugar, but we are restricting certain types of sugar because most everybody consumes way too much sugar. And yes, your body does need sugar, but it just doesn't need that much. So we're having a good time within that group. And if you missed it, join us for our next challenge, probably coming up after January 1st, and we'll figure out what we want to do for that challenge. If you guys are joining us right now, make sure that you say hello. I'll say, give a shout out to a couple of people who faithfully watch from all over the United States. Michelle, it's always good to see you from Arizona. Shelly, how are you from Massachusetts? And Vicky, how are you? Thank you for your kind words. I want to talk to you guys about tonight why cholesterol lowering medications, why they cause more fires. And I'm going to show you why when it comes to drugs, when it comes to even supplements, is that it's never a this for that approach, is that inserting something into the whole Swiss watch spectrum, why it will cause interference with so many other organ systems. And we actually, when you look at today, even in natural medicine or even in traditional medicine, how it is just if you have this, take that. And meanwhile, what it does is it interrupts the whole entire body's physiology. So then what they do is they basically just cause side effects, or what we would call effects, and then insert another drug in order to counteract that. All right. So as we have more people that jumping on from Arizona again, from Winkler, I don't know where that's at, maybe Wisconsin, Streeter, Illinois, from North Dakota. Let me know, guys, where you are watching from. I'm always honored and humbled when you guys listen to me every Monday evening. California as well. So while we have people that are jumping on, let me go over a couple of things, do a little bit of house cleaning. Guys, if you don't, make sure you follow us on our other channels. The reason why is people always ask us, so-and-so is not on Facebook. Where can I find a long version of this live video? Guys, you always will be able to find it on YouTube. Typically, we will upload this live video to YouTube within the next 2 to 3 days. And then at the same time, we will also upload it to Rumble as well. The reason why we upload it to both platforms is YouTube has notoriously taken down some very popular videos of mine. And I have 2 strikes on YouTube. Which means that I'm not that far off until I get deplatformed. All right. So we always will have our backup, which is on Rumble as well. So that way you can share the links to people that you know, people that you love, who needs to hear this information. And guys, also we are on TikTok. Normally this video, I will upload a shortened version of that to TikTok. That's about 3 minutes long. I'm also on True Social and on Twitter, which is a lot more fun over the last couple of weeks. And then also on Telegram, so you can stay up to date. Just in case I fall off the face of the earth on this platform, you'll know where to find me on these other platforms. And these other platforms allow me to have a little bit more freedom of speech without it being shadow banned, without it being suppressed. So guys, if you are on these platforms, I would appreciate if you like and if you follow us on these other platforms as well. And guys, coming up in December, if you can go to the top of this page, you will see a link to register for our next upcoming inflammation talk. Guys, inflammation is the spark that leads to every single chronic disease out there. You cannot get well unless you are first and foremost handling inflammation, whether it's weight loss, whether it's cancer, whether it's infertility, thyroid disease, autoimmune disease, trying to balance your hormones, arthritis, type 2 diabetes. Guys, inflammation is the first and foremost thing that you have to address, which is why so many people don't get well when it comes to being in natural medicine, because really what they're not trying to correct first and foremost is inflammation. Guys, you can't heal a scab on your leg if you keep falling on that scab every single day. Doesn't matter how many supplements that you are taking. You first have to find why it is inflamed, why the body is trying to adapt it that way, and start to remove that, and then allow the body and support the body to be able to heal on its own. Because remember this, I'll say this till the day I die, is that the best physician in the world is not on your healthcare plan. The best physician in the world is not who you're watching right now. The best physician in the world is the one that has already been placed inside of the body, because it is perfect. It will always adapt. It is not trying to get sick. It is always trying to heal. And what we think is us getting sick is actually the body trying to preserve your life, trying to adapt, no matter what condition that you may be suffering from. If you understand that the body does not mess up, if you understand that the body does not make mistakes, it will help you to see why you are suffering from a different perspective. So let's talk about cholesterol, okay? I will also say this to my grave, is that there is no such thing as bad cholesterol. In medicine, we always want to say you have the good cholesterol and you have the bad. And I'm saying, what do you mean? It's both of that is cholesterol, well, whether it's HDL or LDL. There's no such thing as bad cholesterol. The only thing that exists is appropriate cholesterol. Remember, if the body doesn't mess up, then if you have a high amount of LDL, remember that is what is sent out from the liver that is needed for hormone production and repair. And HDL is actually the cholesterol that's coming back that would be considered the cleanup crew. So there's no such thing as bad cholesterol. It's just appropriate cholesterol. So I always ask people, why on earth are you asking me about red rice yeast? Why on earth are you asking me about taking something to try to lower my cholesterol? Because the thinking is false. You're still thinking that there is good cholesterol and that there is bad cholesterol, and somehow you're going to try to lower your bad cholesterol. Guys, cholesterol goes up based on demand. And if you are inflamed, if you need more hormone production, if you need an increase in healing, figure out why that's happening before you're trying to run off and trying to quote unquote lower your cholesterol with niacin or red rice yeast or whatever it might be, whatever the flavor of the day is when it comes to lowering cholesterol. So guys, the first and foremost thing that you have to realize is that the body doesn't mess up. Cholesterol is raising for a reason. Heck, if you actually know about hormones, you would realize that a person under a high amount of stress, increasing cortisol will cause an increase in LDL, because your body needs to supply more cholesterol, because cholesterol is the backbone for making your sex hormones, including cortisol, which is known as the steroid hormone. So here's what's interesting. So we talk about cholesterol lowering medication. There's a few medications out there that I actually think there really is no physiological reason to be able to take. And there's a couple I won't talk about, but you've probably heard me talk about certain things in the last 2.5 years, how, in my opinion, is completely and utterly useless. And not only that, it's actually damaging to the body. And cholesterol is also one of those as well. The reason why I say that is actually, if you look at some of the metadata going back on cholesterol use, one of the amazing things is that looking at the data from the last approximately 20 years, one of the things that they realized is that the number needed to treat in order to prevent one heart attack or prevent one stroke, which is the reason why you're taking a cholesterol medication in the first place, is 100. Dr. Nate, what does that mean? That means that 100 people need to be on a statin drug for a period of time, usually for 2 years, in order to prevent one heart attack, which means that the efficacy is actually 1%. I don't know how many people would be tearing down the doors in order to get a drug that gives you a 1% chance of preventing a heart attack or preventing a stroke. Meanwhile, with all of the side effects that I'm about to tell you, and I'm going to explain to you why, using physiology, why there are so many side effects and why, in my opinion, so many people are getting hurt. And one of the reasons why I'm going to be talking about cholesterol medication is because it is now one of the most popular medications that are prescribed to people every single year. And in fact, if you even know someone who has no calcifications of the arteries, they have no plaquing whatsoever, and they have no indication that there is actually any kind of cardiovascular disease whatsoever, they'll still put people on a statin drug because it's kind of one of those preventative type things, which to me makes absolutely no sense, especially when you have an NNT of 100 at best. Now, here it comes from the horse's mouth. And in fact, a lot of times when I talk about this, people just can't process this, that when you look at Lipitor, which is one of the early statin drugs or cholesterol lowering drugs, right on the label of Lipitor, here's what they said. Lipitor has not been shown to prevent heart disease or heart attacks. Will it lower cholesterol? Actually, it doesn't lower cholesterol. It inhibits cholesterol production from the liver. And so you're taking it, your cholesterol goes down. Doctor says, oh, thank God, the medicine worked. Well, it worked to lower cholesterol, but has it actually lowered your risk of a heart attack or stroke, which is the reason why you're taking it in the first place. How about Crestor? Crestor has not been determined to prevent heart disease, heart attacks, or strokes, which is the very reason why people take it. Why do so many people take it? Because the doctor recommends it, and people will take it not based on facts, but based off of fear. And we have seen over the last 2.5 years how people lose their minds when they are undergoing a period of high stress and fear, and how they lose the ability to be able to think and to be able to reason. And so this is just one of these medications that absolutely does not make any sense. And in fact, here's some evidence on the contrary. In the Journal of Neurology, the official journal of the American Academy of Neurology, and here's what they said. High cholesterol levels in late life associated with a reduced risk of dementia. Wait a second. You mean to tell me that as a person gets older and they need to experience more healing, they need more protection to their nerve system, that they actually will need a higher level of cholesterol in order to provide that protection, to be able to protect the brain, the spinal cord, and the entire nerve system. So is there a protective mechanism to cholesterol going up as people get older? And the answer is yes, because again, the body doesn't mess up, the body doesn't make mistakes. And in fact, having too low a cholesterol could actually be very detrimental to a lot of different things, including the nerve system, including to your mental acuity, and also to a man's testosterone level. I'll show you that in just a second. So the reason why I wanted to talk about cholesterol medications was actually because if you look at from 2018 to 2019, atorvastatin was the #1 prescribed medication. 112 million prescriptions that were filled in the United States. Here's what's interesting. The second one was a synthetic form of thyroid hormone. The third one was due to lisinopril, a blood pressure medication, metformin, type 2 diabetes, metoprolol, blood pressure medication, amlodipine, blood pressure medication, albuterol, which is a steroid inhaler, omeprazole, which is a proton pump inhibitor for reflux, losartan. I also believe that's a blood pressure medication, and gabapentin for unrelenting chronic pain. If you look at the top 10 medications, what are the problems that we are having? We are having problems with inflammation that's leading to high cholesterol. Our thyroids are shot and we have high blood pressure. We don't digest our food very well. And also we are in a lot of pain. What are all of these medications? What are they geared towards? They're all geared towards putting out fires. That the first and foremost thing that is being caused, that's causing the need for these medications, is actually inflammation. And the reason why people are so inflamed, because they have no idea what it is. They have no idea how to actually handle it. And all doctors do is they take that inflammation and they either try to put out the fire of the inflammation by chemically manipulating it, or they're treating the effects of the inflammation. So the reason why I wanted to talk about atorvastatin or statin drugs in general is because this affects so many people. Total patients, 25 million, which comes out to about 1 in 13, 1 in 14. You add in all the other statin drugs, and you probably are looking at 1 in 10 people right now that are taking a medication. That includes men, women, and children. But then you take that this is probably people from 40 years of age and older. Now look at that, and you might actually be looking at 1 in 3 people that are taking a statin drug that are suffering potentially devastating side effects from doing it, but the doctor doesn't tell them of these side effects. And meanwhile, they continue to suffer, or they continue to take more drugs, try to cover up the side effects from taking a statin drug. So let's look at some of the side effects. In fact, I hate saying the word side effect because it really isn't a side effect. It's an effect. It is an effect. They call it a side effect of saying, you know what, that might happen. But again, there's no such thing as a side effect to a medication. It either does something or it doesn't. And so if you are seeing an effect of the medication, it means that that was the medication's intended consequence. So here's one of the first side effects. If you look at this from PubMed back in the spring of 2010, it was called coenzyme Q10 and statin-induced mitochondrial dysfunction. Dr. Nate, that's a big word. It's a scary word. What on earth is mitochondria? Mitochondria are literally the powerhouses of every single cell that are inside of your body. Mitochondria are the engines in the cell that will produce energy either through the utilization of sugar, or through the breakdown of proteins, or also through aerobic respiration of fats. So mitochondria are the powerhouses, what's producing energy within the cell. And actually what it is doing is that statin drugs are destroying the powerhouses of your cells. So here's what it goes on to say. Multiple studies have shown that statins can decrease coenzyme Q10 levels, okay? Aging appears to play an important role in causing low levels of coenzyme Q10, which means that as people get older, their mitochondria get more damaged, they get more beat up, which is why actually as people get older, why their energy levels are so in decline, why they're waning. They also say exercise may induce a relative coenzyme Q10 deficiency because of an increased demands on the mitochondria for ATP production. And finally, several primary deficiency states of coenzyme Q10 exist that result in encephalopathies. Now we are talking about the brain. Severe infantile multisystem disease, Leigh syndrome, myopathies, and cerebellar ataxia. What does that mean? Ataxia, uncoordinated movement. How many people that are older have very uncoordinated movement? And so what does having a CoQ10 deficiency, what does it lead to? It leads to mitochondrial dysfunction. Does that involve the nerve system? Yes. Does it involve the muscle system? Yes. Does it involve the liver? Yes. It involves all of those things I'm going to show you in just a second. But here's why this is important. Here's why people who are older, they're already CoQ10 deficient. Then on top of that, when they start taking a statin drug, how a statin drug actually works is that it inhibits an enzyme within the liver that not only inhibits the production of cholesterol, but what it also inhibits is the production of CoQ10 in the liver. That is not a side effect, that's an effect. Because when you start messing with physiology, the same physiology going down those pathways, then it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to inhibit production of CoQ10, which is then going to affect respiration in the mitochondria that is producing energy. Now, why does it involve people, more older people than younger people? Is because they're already CoQ10 deficient, because their cells, as they get older, as they get more inflamed, just get more beat up. I want you to show you this, guys. This is probably one of the most scary graphs that I will ever show you, maybe at least scary for me, because this takes me back to biochemistry in graduate school. So we had to take biochemistry, and we had to be able to write this whole thing out from memory. And we also had to be able to do conversions on how many ATP were produced based on all of these different substrates. It was an absolute, it gave me nightmares, and it still does to this day. So I want you to look at this. This is Krebs cycle. This is what's occurring in the mitochondria of every single cell. This is how the mitochondria, the chemical reaction that is required in order to produce energy. And what we're actually looking at here is we're looking at how this Krebs cycle means aerobic energy, which means producing energy from oxygen respiration. So you actually will see when these specific substrates are inserted and how they are converted into all these different substrates. But finally, when you're getting to production of energy, also known as ATP, which is basically the cash that is used for energy production by the cells, that the last things that you need, and you're going to notice lots of B vitamins, you need iron, you need lipoic acid, but you also need CoQ10. You also need magnesium as well. So if you are deficient in CoQ10, this flywheel actually starts to slow down, which basically means that you're going to have a decrease in energy production. Now, take a specific type of cell that's getting a decrease in energy production. What if it's happening within the brain? Can you possibly have issues of dementia or maybe depression? Certain parts of the brain are affected. Not only that, what if it's happening within the skeletal muscles? Will you have problems with muscle pain, muscle weakness? The answer is yes. How do you know that? Well, because it's just basic physiology, but you don't have to go very far in looking at the research and saying, yes, this is in fact actually happening. And if a doctor doesn't admit that it is happening, or you go to the doctor and say, I'm having this, and they aren't willing to look and see, maybe it's the statin drug that I prescribed for you, because I still believe in the false theory that heart disease is caused by cholesterol, then they're going to fail to actually get you well. In fact, they'll make you even sicker. So what are some of the first side effects that you can start seeing? Number one, muscle pain. In fact, it's been estimated. I have an article from Newsweek from about, I want to say 10, 11, maybe even 12 years ago that talked about the number of people who are having muscle pain is about 20%. So can you get muscle pain? The answer is yes. Can you have dementia? Yes. But I want you to think about it is that CoQ10 is needed within the mitochondria of muscle cells. Guess what else is a muscle cell? Your heart. Your heart is a muscle. So if you're causing the heart to not contract and not beat and not push blood and oxygen through, one of the things that can happen is you're going to have a heart that's beating weaker. And what happens is you can start to have, it can't overcome the resistance of pushing blood to the lungs. The lungs will then start to fill up, which will make it even worse if you have some inflammatory condition within the lungs. And it can lead to congestive heart failure if you become CoQ10 deficient from taking a statin drug. And I want to emphasize, especially as you get older. And why is that? The reason why is because you're already CoQ10 deficient because your mitochondria have gotten beat up over time. Not as you have aged, but because as your lifestyle has actually caused it. Now, here's the second effect that statin drugs will actually cause. So this is an article from the Journal of American Medical Association, Internal Medicine. And they say association of statin therapy or cholesterol lowering drugs initiation with diabetes progression. All right. So they asked the question, what is the association of statin treatment initiation and diabetes progression in patients with diabetes? This was a study, looked at 83,000 individuals, and here was what they found. Statin use was associated with diabetes progression in patients with diabetes. Statin users had a higher likelihood of insulin treatment initiation, developing significant hyperglycemia or increased blood sugar, experiencing acute glycemic complications, and being prescribed an increased number of glucose-lowering medication classes. So what does it do? Is that if you have issues with the blood sugar, and remember, is that blood sugar and cholesterol actually go hand in hand. And so if you do have high cholesterol and it's been there for a while, chances are you're already insulin resistant, your insulin levels are through the roof, and your blood sugars, are having a hard time actually controlling those. So if they put you on a statin drug and you already are having blood sugar issues, what they found is that it is just more likely to progress, not get better, but to progress. And in fact, the way that modern medicine today handles type 2 diabetes is sad, because the way that they give you medications without changing anything about your lifestyle only leads to the progression of you not only becoming a type 2 diabetic, but then also being a type 1 diabetic, which is an insulin-dependent diabetic, because your pancreas has utterly crapped out. Sorry for the bad word, if that is a bad word, but it is pooped out because of what they're doing to continue to try to drive those insulin levels up, without actually getting to the cause. So statins are associated with increased insulin resistance and secretion. So not only do you not hear insulin anymore, but it's actually causing the pancreas to work even harder. Now, here's what they say. Statin treatment reduces the risk of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. Now, I put a question mark there because that's not necessarily true. Yes, maybe 1 in 100, but then how many people are experiencing side effects? Because if you have more side effects than it's intended, the intention of what that medication is trying to do, then the risks outweigh the benefits. Let me say that again. The risks outweigh the benefits. And remember, the Hippocratic Oath says, first, do no harm. First, do no harm. Here's what the conclusions were. In individuals without type 2 diabetes, high-intensity atorvastatin for 10 weeks, just 10 weeks, increases insulin resistance and insulin secretion. Over time, the risk of new onset diabetes with statin use may increase in individuals who become more insulin resistant but are unable to maintain compensatory increases in insulin secretion, which is where everyone is heading if you don't get to the reason why you're insulin resistant in the first place. Statins are associated with an increased insulin resistance and insulin secretion. So what can happen? Well, something that you think is innocuous of going on a statin drug, or even doctors saying maybe you should go on it as prevention, almost like it's some kind of multivitamin. Well, one of the things that's going to happen based on what they're telling you is that it will turn into type 2 diabetes, which means one of the first drugs that they'll want to put you on is metformin in order to try to help you with insulin sensitivity. But of course, that's not going to work anymore. And then finally, you'll be going on an injectable insulin because you will become a type 2 and also a type 1 insulin dependent diabetic. Guys, I want to show you something because this is sad and also funny at the same time, but more so sad. If you go to WebMD and you type in metformin, here are the user reviews for metformin oral, okay? They have a rating of 3.4 out of 5 overall rating. And if you look at some of the reviews, 1,236 reviews, which is amazing because I don't know that people would actually review on WebMD. I'd never heard of it, but I read some of the reviews. I want to read a review for you. This person who has taken metformin gave it 1 star, okay? They say this: I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in March, and I've been taking metformin for 7 months. It did not control my blood sugar effectively, and the side effects were almost debilitating. Severe chronic diarrhea and weight loss. I was unwilling to continue metformin to discuss other options with my doctor. She took me off metformin and prescribed glipizide. I realized metformin works for many patients, but not for me. So rather than the doctor saying, hey, maybe we should get to the reason, they just switched one medication for another. And in fact, here's how crazy it's actually gotten, is that there's doctors now that are prescribing metformin for weight loss, if you can believe that. And I do know doctors who have done that, and they are doing a tremendous disservice for people by putting them on metformin. One of the other effects of metformin is that it will destroy the gastrointestinal microbiome. And so be on it long enough and it will change the whole entire microbiome, which is actually needed for a host of other functions, in which we'll go over at a later time. All right. So the third thing is that, so we talked about how it's causing mitochondrial dysfunction. Number 2, how it is exacerbating or even leading to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. And then the third thing is how it affects hormones. Yes, ladies' hormones, when it comes to testosterone, you need it, ladies, but also in men's testosterone, and men will feel it more because they have typically higher levels, though they should have higher levels of testosterone. So coming from the PubMed, they say the effect of statins on testosterone in men and women, a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized control trials. Here's what they said. Statins may partially operate by lowering testosterone. Whether this is a detrimental side effect or mode of action, warrants investigation given the potential implications for drug development and prevention of non-communicable chronic diseases. So what they're saying is that, okay, statins do in fact lower testosterone, and we actually don't know if it's just a side effect like a whoopsie, or is it actually the direct mode of action, okay? The reason why is I don't know why they would be asking this, because all you really have to do is understand your physiology. And this is the sex hormone, also known as the steroid hormone pathway. Guys, in order for you to make cortisol, in order for you to make cortisone, in order for you to make progesterone, which you guys have probably heard these before, in order for you to be able to make estradiol, in order for men, for you to be able to make testosterone, the backbone of this is actually cholesterol. Guys, the foundation of all of these hormones is, in fact, cholesterol. And so when a doctor says your cholesterol, it doesn't even matter how low it goes, the lower the better, you need cholesterol, or otherwise you can't even make a sufficient amount of steroid hormones like cortisol, testosterone, ladies, progesterone, estradiol. Cholesterol is the backbone of all of those different things. So can it interfere with testosterone production? The answer is a resounding yes. What happens when this starts interfering with a man's testosterone production? Here's what happens. If you have testosterone, you can Google, you can DuckDuckGo, do whatever you want, and look up symptoms of low testosterone. Some of the most prevailing symptoms are going to be low energy, poor sleep, and erectile dysfunction. Low energy, poor sleep, and erectile dysfunction. And then raise your hand if you know a man who is 40, 50, 60 years of age, who has low energy, poor sleep, and erectile dysfunction, and could it be caused by a statin drug? Now, there's more than one reason why men are going to suffer from low testosterone, but I want you to think of one of the most obvious and simplest things that you can correct is whether or not they're on a statin drug or not. The other things is they may have a ton of chronic stress. They might be very inflamed. They might be eating way too much sugar, which for 95% of men is true. They might be drinking way too much alcohol. They may have a high body fat content. They're probably not getting enough sleep. And they might be very nutritionally deficient, because one of the things in order that helps testosterone production and conversion is actually zinc. So they might be very deficient, and they might have all of those issues. We just had a man who came in. This person actually has chronic multiple myeloma and is in kidney failure right now. So we tested a bunch of tests. One of the things that we want to just check on was his testosterone. Testosterone was sitting at about 150. Just to give you a kind of a reference, is that we don't really are concerned about testosterone unless it is under 400. And where people should be at, regardless of age, men I'm talking about specifically, is that we would like to see them at 700 to 800 without taking a testosterone replacement therapy. So he was at about 150, and we started to handle the inflammatory triggers only. It's the only thing that we have done. We started getting him off of sugar and started lowering some of these inflammatory processes and start helping his immune system, especially trying to get that up to help with cancer progression. And his testosterone went from about 150 to almost 300 in about 3 months. And this is actually with zero supplementation whatsoever. We didn't have him on Tribulus. We didn't have him on a bunch of zinc. We didn't have him on anything that would stimulate testosterone. How did it go up? Because he got healthier. So low sleep, poor sleep, low energy, erectile dysfunction, all of those are symptoms of low testosterone. So I want you to think of it. You're taking a statin drug. Someone that you love is taking a statin drug. They're on it and they're like, oh man, my muscles are really sore. I felt like my edge is off. I don't have the memory that I had. My blood sugar continues to elevate. And I just don't have I don't have energy. I can't sleep. I'm not doing a salute in the morning, if you know what I'm talking about. Maybe I should go to one of these male clinics and maybe they can give me some kind of synthetic testosterone. So what happens next? They go into these testosterone replacement therapy clinics that are, in my opinion, no different than the pain management clinics of 15 to 20 years ago, in which they just prescribed them narcotics that they would get hooked on, which is why we have a real drug problem based off of prescription pain medication today. And all that leads to is testosterone replacement therapy and Viagra. Interesting enough, go ahead and look when Viagra came out, and it was right around the same time that we started giving men so much statin drugs about 20 years ago. Isn't that amazing? Is that they create the problem and then offer the solution with another drug. So the reason why this happens, guys, is you have to stop having this for that mentality. And in fact, I guarantee you, I haven't even looked at the thread on here. Someone probably is asking me, what should you take for high cholesterol? As if it's just a this for that approach. Guys, your body works like a Swiss watch. So if you look at the back of a Swiss watch, you see all of these gears. And it's like asking the question, which gear is the most important? And you say, well, they're all important, because it won't keep proper time if you try to remove or manipulate one of the gears. They're all important. And it's the same thing with the body, is you have the gears of all of these organ systems that are working. And when one organ system suffers, they all begin to suffer and they all begin to adapt. That's like when I say your big toe controls your blood pressure. And people laugh. I say, if you don't believe me, give me a hammer, let me smash your big toe, then let's take your blood pressure and let's see what happens. This is why a gastrointestinal issue can become a skin issue. This is why a gastrointestinal issue can become a depression issue. This is why a problem in the spine can become a digestive issue. It's all together. And that's why you have to do all of the things necessary in order to remove what is inhibiting the Swiss watch and what is slowing it down and causing the body to be able to adapt. This is why, guys, that there are very few things that is a this for that approach in medicine, but even in natural medicine. A lot of times people will ask me, hey, why don't you do nutrient testing in the office? I say, okay, you do nutrient testing. Let's say you're B12 deficient. So they're going to give you B12 injections. They may say, hey, go ahead and take more B12. But do they ever try to figure out why you're B12 deficient in the first place? Did they ever actually look at your diet? Did they actually look at it even if you had enough stomach acid to be able to absorb the vitamin B12? Did they actually see maybe the problems in the stomach and not with just if you're taking enough or not? Or I'm iron deficient. And it's like, well, taking more iron, is that the answer? Maybe, but it probably isn't, because you also need stomach acid to be able to absorb the iron. So you can see how everything works together, and you have to know about physiology so that you can start to put the pieces together. So this is the reality right now, guys. We are inflamed, we're in pain, we're stressed out, and we're chronically sick. And yet we still go to this system in order to get more drugs to try to put out more fires. So let me leave a question with you right now. If statin drugs truly prevented a heart attack or cardiovascular disease, then why don't we give it to kids? Let me say that again. If statin drugs truly prevented heart disease, why wouldn't we give it to children? The reason why is because it would at best make them very sick, at worst it would kill them. See, statin drugs aren't prevention, because if it was true prevention, it is something that you could do from birth until death. Statin drugs are just sprinkling water on a fire. And if you never ever get to the reason why the fire happened, you will continue to have fires, and which is no wonder why so many people are living in a decrepit, decaying body. Sure, they might be living longer. They're just living longer while they're sick. In my opinion, that's no way to live. You should live healthy. You should be vibrant. You should be well. And you shouldn't spend the first 40 years of your life tearing down your body and the next 40 putting out fires while the body continues to rot and decay. So think about that question. And the next time you go to the doctor, if they want to put you on a statin drug, say, hey, if this is so good for heart disease, and heart disease and cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer in the United States, we should actually be giving this to our kids. But they understand that it would make them very sick at best. So this is the painful reality, guys, is your doctor will not save you. Only you can save yourself. See, we have been misled greatly when it comes to health, when it comes to the role of medicine. Your doctor is not God. Your doctor can be wrong. And having a blind faith and blind trust in a doctor and hoping that they're right 100% of the time, in my opinion, you probably won't like me saying this, and it really comes down to it's become a religion. It's actually become a chemical religion. Your doctor's not going to save you. In fact, no one is coming to save you. Only you can save yourself. But that doesn't mean that you can't work with a great doctor who knows how to guide you, who knows how to lead you, who knows how to put you in the right direction, who knows how to be accountable to you, who knows how to be your tour guide and not your God, who's not going to save you, but is going to teach you how to apply principles to help you save yourself, to apply principles that work with nature, that work with physiology, with how God created the body versus always working against it in the never-ending pursuit of trying to find the next fire to put out. Meanwhile, we continue to rot and crumble and decay. So here's what we do, guys. Here's what we do. And I always will say this, is if you are truly concerned about your true heart attack risk or your cardiovascular risk, first thing that you do is test all of the inflammatory triggers. And yes, you should test your cholesterol, because cholesterol is largely dependent on particle size, not an HDL, not an LDL, but on particle size. So can you actually test the different types of cholesterol and their particle size? Yes, you can. So you can actually look and see, am I making very heavy and very dense cholesterol particles, the type that will actually bury underneath the lining of the blood vessel and create an immune system response leading to atherosclerosis? Am I making the cholesterol that's doing that? But the other markers you should be looking at are things like high sensitivity C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory marker, looking at homocysteine as well, and even looking at your insulin levels. But the first thing is to actually test this properly. Guys, so many times people bring their labs in for the last 2 to 3 years, and all I'm seeing is the same thing over and over. It's called a CMP, a CBC, maybe a urinalysis, maybe looking at cholesterol, TSH, maybe looking at triglycerides, and that's it. Guys, if your doctor is doing those tests, they're only looking for fires, and they'll do nothing in order to tell you why you feel sick. So here's what you can do, guys. Number one, testing. Cardiometabolic test is a great start, especially if you truly want to know what your true heart attack risk is. Another thing that you guys can do too is ask your doctor to get a calcium score. This will actually look at the amount of atherosclerotic plaquing that's taking place in the major arteries, like the carotid arteries, in the aorta, in the vessels around the heart, like the coronary arteries. So you can see truly if you are building atherosclerotic plaquing in those areas. If you're on a statin, I can't tell you that you need to go off of them. You should talk to your doctor, and your doctor should give you a plan on what you need to do in order to be able to go off of them. But they're not going to give you very much lifestyle advice other than eat right and exercise. That's about it. Well, what do I need to do, doctor? I don't know. Do 30 minutes of cardiovascular exercise and watch your fats and eat plenty of vegetables and fruit. That's not going to cut it anymore, guys. So if you're on a statin, one of the things you should be on, CoQ10. And or you should be on a liver glandular. So start taking a desiccated liver. We actually have desiccated liver that we give our patients that come from grass-fed cows, so their livers aren't destroyed and toxic, because liver will actually have a large amount of CoQ10 because you are consuming the actual cells of the liver. So you actually are eating the cells and mitochondria and the CoQ10 that's inside. And the third thing is, guys, and this just comes from being mature, is that you have to understand that your problems can only be fixed by you. And in fact, how do you know if you're in a great place to begin the process of healing? Is once you're ready to say, you know what, whether I've been misled or not, me getting better is entirely up to me. And I'm ready to man up. I'm ready to woman up. And I'm ready to start taking charge and responsibility for my health. And I'm done waiting for somebody to save me. And if you're ready to do that, and only then will you truly be able to go into a state in which you can start to heal. Obviously, guys, if that's you and you're listening to that right now and you are in the Chicagoland area, please go to the top. Please register for our next inflammation talk, the last one of the year coming up in December, because we'll show you the first steps that you need to take in order to start taking charge of your health and start saying, I'm responsible for my health. This is what I'm going to do. And so that way at that talk, we'll talk about first steps that you need to do. And that way 2023 can be a great year for you versus more of the same, of more pain, more inflammation, more loss of energy, more unbalanced hormones. Start that first step by registering up at the top of the page. Get registered for that if you are from the Chicagoland area. And we'll see you very soon coming up, probably on Wednesday. And I'll join you live with something interesting that I want to talk about. But guys, always make sure that you like the page. Make sure you follow the page. Always share this video with other people who could benefit. And again, also follow us on those other social media platforms, just in case you don't see me on Facebook ever again. So guys, be well, be blessed. I hope you have a great evening. Remember, is that you're responsible for your health. No one's coming to save you, but I'll help you, lead you, and guide you in the right direction. So guys, be well. I hope you have a great night. Remember who you are.